So we are in continuation with measures undertaken by the government to remove poverty. And in this we talked about GPP. G was growth oriented approach. We talked about poverty alleviation programs, the PAPs, and also provision of basic amenities. So it was a three-pronged attack. So let's just take the first one we've just discussed. We talked about how the growth-oriented approach, and we called it the trickle-down effect as they've named it. But now we're going to do the poverty alleviation programs. So you please look at this while. So they what happened was, while looking for alternatives to specifically address the poor, policymakers started thinking that incomes and employment for the poor could be raised through the creation of income earning assets and also by means of employment, work generation. So most poverty alleviation programs implemented are based on say expanding self-employment programs and the wage employment programs to address this. So these were basically poverty alleviation programs were we can divide them into the what is known as the self-employment programs and the wage employment programs. So you can have a look at this and see. So when were they launched and over the 5-year plans during the planning period. Now for example, let's just divide into two parts. Self-employment programs. So at a glance you can see. So one was the IRDP. The year it was known as Integrated Rural Development Program, and the year of launch was 1978-79. The objective was to provide help to rural poor families by providing productive assets. That means assets used for production. The second one, again, we are doing the self-employment first. Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program, PMEGP. It was launched in 2008. It was by merging two programs. One was the Rural Employment Generation Program of 1999-2000 and Prime Minister's Rozgar Yojana. So what was the objective? This was that they wanted to generate employment opportunities through establishment of micro enterprises in rural and urban areas. So that was it, in rural and urban areas. Then third was the Swaran Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, SGSY. It was launched in 1999 April, and this was by merging Integrated Rural Development Program and other schemes. Now what was the objective? This was again to provide help to the rural poor to get income generating assets and to promote their micro enterprise. Then we have what is known as, all these are self-employment, everything to do. So when we do the chapter on employment, you should be knowing this by then. So again, another employment thing was the fourth was National Rural Livelihoods Mission, that is Ajivika. Launching was on in the year 2011. This was by reorganizing what is SGSY, that is Swaran Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana, now known as Deen Dayal Upadhyay National Rural Livelihood Mission, DDU NRLM. And again, the objective was, what was the objective? To help poor families, that is Swarozgaris, the ones who did their own Rojgar, by organizing them into self-help groups, SHGs. That was it. So they organized them into S Swa, that means self-help groups they were organized into. So again we are talking about these employment schemes. So then we have the Swaran Jayanti Shehri Rozgar Yojana. Year of launch was 1997. The objective was to provide gainful employment to urban unemployed and underemployment poor through self-employment and wage employment. Then you have what is known as a Deen Dayal Upadhyay National Urban Livelihood Mission, which replaced SJSRY, that is Swaran Jayanti Shehri Rozgar Yojana. The year launching was 2013-14. This was to impart skills training for self and wage employment through setting up self-employment venture. So even here we see that there was something long back as TRISEM. So that means training for rural youth for self-employment programs. So and then there was this 20-point program in which everything was written. It was, I think, given in 1976 and then it was renewed in 1982. So all these they chalked out the plan of reducing poverty, how to bring about employment opportunities, self-employment opportunities and wage employment opportunities. So now we are going to talk about programs which were basically there to help the give wage employment. So one was its NREP, started in 1980, that is National Rural Employment Program, launched in 1980. This was to provide wage employment to rural population who largely depend on wage employment. Then you had the Jawahar Rozgar Yojana in 1989, and this came up by merging two wage employment programs, National Rural Employment Program, that is NREP, and Rural Landless Employment Program. So Rural Landless Employment Guarantee Program, and this was to generate additional gainful employment to unemployed and underemployed persons in rural areas. Then you had this Jawahar Gram Smriddhi Yojana. In 1999 it was launched. This was creation of infrastructure and durable assets at the village level to generate employment opportunities. Then you have what is Employment Assurance Scheme, EAS, launched in 1993, and this was to provide 100 days of unskilled manual work on demand to 2 members of a rural family in the age group of 18 to 60 years. Then you had the Sampurn Gramin Rozgar Yojana. Year of launching was 2001. This was merged by Jawahar Gram Smriddhi Yojana and Employment Assurance Scheme. This was to provide employment and food to people below poverty line. So they also got employment. The National Food for Work Program, which was started in 2004, launched. This was to generate supplementary wage employment. Then you also have Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. In this, the Sampurn Gramin Rozgar Yojana and National Food for Work Program, they were merged into it. The year of launching was 2006, and this was to provide at least 100 days of guaranteed wage employment in a financial year to at least one member of every rural household on demand. So it was seen that everybody gets that. So then you have, so we've seen from time to see every okay, then let me just also talk about this self-employment program which I've just left out. It was Mudra Bank. This was also look at this, self-employment, that's Mudra Bank. So Mudra stands for Micro Units Development Refinance Agency Bank. So this was set up in 2015. The objective was to meet the credit needs of micro enterprises and self-employed persons. So a micro enterprise was entitled for a loan of rupees 10 lakh per unit. So whichever enterprise you set up, a small enterprise, micro means small, so up till 10 lakhs you could be given. So basically now these are the PAPs we've just talked. What are these known as? Poverty Alleviation Programs. So we've done two approaches by the government. First approach was what? G. What is G? Growth oriented approaches. What is that? Is a trickle down approach. The second one was a poverty alleviation programs. So the last one is left, which we'll do, provision of basic amenities.